Hi, welcome back to Astro Action for part 3 of Neptune and Pisces 2012 through 2025, the big goodbye. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Please check out the first two videos, part 1 and 2. If you haven't, it adds up to about an hour. But I'm going to recap a little bit of what I was getting into in part 2. About the beginning of 2024, I was witnessing the election and all the current events, and I was really wondering, like, WTF is going on, and I came up with the phrase end stage Neptune. It kept ringing through my head for the rest of that year up until the beginning of 2025. So as Neptune was finishing through its transit of its ruling sign Pisces, the sign in which it's in its dignity, it's totally in its element, and all these Neptunian themes are just ramping up and ramping up and ramping up as it's getting towards the end of the sign. And the phrase end stage Neptune and its negative connotation comes to mind. In fact, in astrology, the 29th, the final degree of the zodiac sign, has a very bad reputation. Okay, so with end stage Neptune, what I was witnessing was, first of all, remember I said Pisces is the old man of the zodiac. So we had President Biden beginning to launch his campaign. And as we start to see his campaign unravel, and particularly around the debate, where nobody could deny that he was showing the onset of old age and possibly dementia. Like I said, the campaign starts to unravel. And this representing, like, the end of the road, the end of the life cycle. It also has all the hallmarks of a Neptunian delusion in an elderly way, a way of deluding yourself that you can run for president, that you're going to run for president and you're going to win. And to see all that crumbling down around him. And these things became huge political headlines. And in true Neptunian fashion, the Democrats seem to go into some hidden back room and deceptively install a new candidate in an undemocratic way. You could even argue that, as it was accused of being sort of a DEI move, that, DEI and woke ethics are also kind of a Neptunian, illusory, overly idealistic way of going about things. So all of a sudden you had Kamala Harris. I mean, she was the previously rather elusive vice president, supposedly in charge of the borders, dissolving borders. I've already touched on that theme, which was a huge crisis. She didn't seem to be doing a lot about it. Backing up here, to me, she's actually comes off as a very Neptunian Pisces person. I don't have her chart, but just the physical features and things like that. And seems to have a very changeable, chameleon-like quality about her, right? She can seem to arise and be sort of emblematic of this period. Okay. And I was seeing a lot of Neptunian themes, like just a delusional behavior, signs of mental illness. Actually, I mean, inappropriate laughter is a sign of mental illness, sort of out of touch quality. Tim Dillon called Kamala Harris America's wine mom. There's that connection to alcohol and escapism. The confusing, circuitous word salads. And just a general elusive backstory. Like, is she Indian? Is she black? Is she from the South? I mean, what's happening? And the pictures of her and her grandmother in Jamaica, and whether or not that was an actual reality. And when her campaign got underway, she also enlisted primarily music stars. Music is a very Pisces related art form. And not many more substantial people. I mean, just Hollywood entertainment I already showed you the connection between the film industry and Neptune. Neptune was called the Great Movie Queen, by the way, the glamorous movie queen in some of the previous astrology. So the enlistment of all the people from Hollywood, entertainment, and music. Okay. And this sort of big illusion and dream that she would win and took over a lot of people. And now we can see that that was a fantasy because it did not come to pass. It turned out that a much more direct and forceful candidate, let's say someone with Mars in Leo rising, Trump, turned out to win. I'm going to do a whole other video about that election turnout and the aftermath, how it did involve the masculine planet Mars heavily on the election day. Anyway, so end stage Neptune, more crises. We have the hurricanes in North Carolina and Tennessee, like I mentioned earlier, dropping trillions of gallons of water. I mean, just heavy Neptunian themes one after another in the most negative sense. Government cover-ups and conspiracies. I mean, something I didn't mention earlier, getting back to water-related images and unveilings. The Epstein Island controversy, very murky, disturbing, reprehensible, lots of cover-ups involved in there. Hollywood and music unveiling of horribly negative things. The Diddy scandal. It's hard to believe all this stuff just happened. Anyway, a note about UFO disclosure. You know, the people in the UFO community have called this the age of disclosure. Now, the word disclosure literally means like to disclothe something, to divest something, to remove the veil from something. That completely tracks with Neptune and Pisces. Where are we going to ultimately achieve that? I don't know. There may be such forces that will resist the removing of that veil. And that would be one of the greatest unveilings in human history, of course, if we were to have evidence of non-human intelligence. But a lot of people think that we have plenty of it, way more now than we've had in before this past 12 years, because we're talking about the incidents over Catalina Island. I'm not sure if that happened in the 2012 period or not. I think it actually did, with the Tic Tac UFOs. We have David Grush coming forward. We have the other whistleblower coming forward with the egg-shaped UFO on News Nation. We have the testimonies before Congress. Other people of legitimate military backgrounds disclosing insane information, better video footage, etc. Anyway, age of disclosure. Okay, so adding more feeling of crisis to all this in the past year was Saturn having entered Pisces, the same sign, sort of catching up, gradually starting to catch up to Neptune in Pisces. But this is a waning aspect of the cycle, which is basically a crisis before the new beginning. So we're still in that energy. It just adds to that heaviness of Saturn, the crisis of endings, the seriousness of it all. Okay, so that's a little bit about end stage Neptune, which we've been undergoing. And just sort of top it all off, I mean, since the beginning of 2025, we could have what's called the grand finale, particularly with Elon Musk and Doge, okay? And as Neptune and the north node of the moon have slowly been aligning at the beginning of this year, we could say that the unveiling is the way through to the future, because the north node is a doorway, according to some of my original ideas on my shorts. It is a passageway that leads to the higher plane of the moon, where the moon is in its highest inclination. The moon crosses through the ecliptic, the plane between the Earth and the Sun, and heads into the north. That's why it's called the North Node. It has a positive connotation of things moving forward, moving in the right direction in astrology. And Neptune, the great unveiler, millions of miles away, has been aligning with that point. So the way through, the passageway through, is through this great unveiling, as really shown in this grand finale through this move of Doge uncovering massive amount of corruption and money, taxpayer money being flying out the window for the most ridiculous corrupt things that I won't go into. You can watch tons of videos about that. I'm just tying it into the astrology. Okay? And it's interesting. It's an interesting echo of the economy of the Old South. Remember, Neptune was in Pisces during the end of slavery, when the empire of the southern United States was kind of given a free ride with free labor. Just as the bureaucracy, through things like U.S. aid, have also, those people have been given this like free ride. And just like the people in the, back in the times of before the Civil War, you know, these people even now are like almost willing to go to war to keep the lifestyles that they have grown accustomed to. Okay? I.e. free money. Accustomed and addicted to. Another Pisces word. Another horrible downside, I don't know if you could call it a grand finale, is the terrible LA fires happening on the coast and around the Pacific Palisades in Los Angeles. And like I said earlier, this had to do with a crisis of a lack of water and a mismanagement of water. Okay? Not just that the fact that it's right there on the water and the irony of that. Okay? And there's even a theory that maybe drug addicts caused the fires. I don't know. There's some murky things about those, about how the origins of those fires. Okay? Which I won't go into now. Again, more murky layers of conspiracy to weed through. And of course, DEI issues kind of played into the controversies surrounding the California fires, given the politics and the California mayor and stuff like that. You know, the UFO and drone mystery, which began right at the end of 2024, is really another border crisis, right? A possible invasion through the skies, but a lot of reports of them coming out of the water. There's a report of 50 of them coming out of the water. They're on mostly on the coast of New Jersey. So there's something going on related to the depths of the outer banks of the Atlantic Ocean out there. Is it Russia? Is it China? Is it Iran? Are they aliens? What is happening? Nobody knows. And we still to this day are just getting gaslighted about it. And then we have this strange mystery fog going around. Okay? Right? Now, to find out more about this, go to my earliest videos about the make references to the Pearl Harbor anniversary. That's how I really tried to launch this channel. Got very excited about some connections I saw there. But anyway, that's going to tie into the UFO UAP thing, and that's ongoing. So I'm going to have an update about that. A more ominous type of video. But you know, it seems like as if like Neptune is like going out with a bang. Okay, it started out with all kinds of mayhem on the planet. It's creating all kinds of mayhem on the planet before his way out and into Aries. Okay, now I want to return to this idea that I've been working with, pointing out how Uranus had traveled through Pisces for 7 years, say since about 2004 to about 2012. Okay. Uranus is the planet of shock and surprise and revolution, highly political, highly intellectual, and it's radical, right? And it's traveling through Pisces, sort of laying the groundwork, sort of seeding that sign just before Neptune then enters Pisces in 2012 and sort of triggers those prior seeding effects, right? So thinking about this and trying to see how this is played out more and more, think of the imagery of, again, Neptune, of a tidal wave, as it enters its own sign, the sign of the oceans. Daddy's coming home, and it's a big deal. It comes in, creates this huge tidal wave effect, pushing forward this prior Uranus and Pisces energy. Okay? So when I see this playing out in two ways, through what generally was going to be called wokeism in the popular culture, think of Uranus as the planet of emancipation and liberation. So it's liberating the imagination, Pisces, in that prior 7 years. Okay, it's radicalizing, it's politicizing it, it's bringing up issues of liberating those who've been oppressed, right, in the margins. Setting that up, it's teeing that up, and then in comes Neptune and just sort of like a tidal wave pushes that forward. And in that sense, the political woke type Gen Z folks in the universities on the campuses all started, like, as Neptune, that wave came through, they started pushing their agenda and the trans agenda and things like that. Started pushing all this really hard. And so that's one level in which we could see it playing out. But on another level, we could see it as a reaction to that via the electronic medium, the new mediums, social media and podcasting, for example, which was reacting to this and airing the grievances and stories about it. Just see the story about Brett Weinstein, what he went through on his campus as he got kicked out of his campus, and Jordan Peterson and people like that. So, and that's all getting on the Joe Rogan podcast for 2 or 3 hours. And so there's this other awakening happening. So there's the wokeism, and then there's what was later to be called the Great Awakening. Of course, COVID would really ramp this up too, but it was sort of like a new social media tsunami that began to overtake the old media, which is now sort of sunk underneath that wave and disoriented. And like, what happened? It was a total catalyst for the election and for Trump winning the election, i.e. podcasts and all the podcasts he went on and all the networking and things that are going on these non-traditional medias, right? Again, remember, I always think of Uranus as a technology, electricity, internet, computers. It seeded Pisces just previous to Neptune entering it and creating this tsunami-like effect and pushing it all through. And even Hollywood is left like submerged and devastated by this sort of tsunami in the form of new forms of media, new forms of entertainment, new forms of social media that are critiquing Hollywood and all of its new output in movies and TV shows before it even comes out. They're like destroying stuff, like it's like the reaction to Snow White, for example, perfect example. So like these people, there are those who kind of were positioned to sort of ride the crest of this wave for various reasons, and there were some who got submerged, under it or rolled over by it. But sort of this wave of a great awakening, I think it's bigger, and basically, you can ask yourself, how have I changed? And I feel that I have changed through this this big electronic wave that has dissolved and restructured society, basically. Or electronic wave that has um, electronic societal wave that has dissolved and restructured our reality. I don't know if anybody's been able to define it, but there you have the astrology behind it. Okay. So, and also towards the end of 2025, or the beginning of 2025, we have this imagery of bubbles bursting, right? Right as Trump took office. I think this is related to having Neptune and Pisces in the end. And then, of course, Pluto moved in Aquarius, which kind of gives it sort of a harder edge, a more intense edge, more detached edge. So it's like, I'm going to just pop that bubble of fantasy, of Pisces fantasy for you, and basically what I'm talking about is the fantasy of transgenderism, the fantasy that there are more than two genders, okay? That there's this spectrum of genders, okay? When scientific biology reveals only two genders in all species, okay? And so by Trump initiating a law that only recognizes two genders, sort of that bubble burst and had all these, having all these effects in terms of women's participating in sports and all that. Now that whole transgender thing is like whole discussion, but it really does very aptly reflect the what I just described of the kind of the combination of the eccentricity of the Uranus energy and the fantasy, visual, imaginative energy of Pisces. Those things combining. Okay, in a strange way, in a way that a efficient and functioning society really can't tolerate. Let's save it for the theater. It's my opinion. We had transgenderism in the 70s. We called it being in a glam rock band. Okay. So that bubble bursts. Let's see. Of course, the and the Doge thing, and maybe some other. You can put in the comments any other bubbles you've seen bursting. Okay, now to the part you've all been waiting for. Thanks for hanging in there. Personal challenges and opportunities that hopefully have benefited you in the past 12 years. So let's harvest them and gather them together as we begin to move forward to a new 12 years. Okay, first of all, on a personal level, concerning this transit of Neptune in Pisces for the past 12 years, people now need to ask themselves, what have I become addicted to? What have I become a slave to? Broadly speaking, political or religious ideologies. Have I become a slave to surveillance capitalism, to technology, to techno-feudalism, to my phone, to drugs, video games, porn, politics? Name your favorite escape. Okay? Along with actual drugs. Well, I guess I mentioned that one. In terms of ideology, have you crucified yourself upon some unattainable, impractical, unrealistic ideal? See the house through which Neptune has been transiting. Okay? Yet it cannot go on any longer. It's gone as far as it can go, whatever it is. Okay? What can say, see, we could say that its purpose has been, the purpose of this past 12 years, Neptune through Pisces, as elusive and vague as it is, was to dissolve certain preconceived notions that we have about ourselves, the world, the universe, who we are, and what our place in the universe is. Big stuff. Our relationship to the whole shebang, to God, if you're so inclined. It's led us to be questioning everything, like even long-held scientific bedrock Newtonian physics, okay? If you watch a lot of hot off the press science videos, you'll see what I mean, okay? A lot of questioning of fundamental laws of physics, okay? Um, it causes us to question certain psychological barriers that we possess and open us up to a wider, greater experience of the world. Hopefully, we can evade confusion and chaos that can come with that, okay? It's a great time to meditate now in the beginning of 2025 on some of the lessons that this epic chaotic period, in which things in many ways have probably been out of your control economically, personally, politically, structurally, okay? It's not been an easy time for any of the world's structures, right? But what has it done to the structures in your thinking that you possessed prior to 2012? How have you become a more learned, far-seeing, more aware person, a more sensitive, a more compassionate person even? And it's important to go even further and connect to the mystery of the universe. And I will add that it is only those with great mental fortitude that have made it through this 12 years unscathed. It brings themes of a test of faith, hopefully a strengthening of our faith, learning to walk in faith, as some say. And, you know, this relates to a lot of economic hardships. Remember, Neptune's relationship to currency and the economy. It's certainly been a difficult time for a lot of people, the majority of people, as it still is. Remember, end stage Neptune. How has the past 12 years brought about a broadening of your reality, of your whole personality? If you try to perceive God or the infinite in all things, you will have learned this incredible lesson of Neptune in Pisces. Now, on a personal note, I know that I am not the same person that I was prior to 2012. This has been a slow process that I haven't been able to really see until I've really started looking into it the past month or so. Okay, as I looked in this process, and I know that particularly through media. Now, remember this. So many of these social changes have happened through the media, through the internet, right? That Uranus Neptune effect that I just spoke about. But I've been able to do deep dive research into various topics in this past 12 years: psychology, mental illness, diet, particularly politics, which I wasn't, and many other people were not too into prior to this period. And so many veils, so many things have been unveiled to me that, and philosophy too. This has all happened in this past 12 years that, you know, I'm not even beginning to come to grips with who I'm going to be going forward to reintegrate myself with these new factors, right? And I suspect a lot of people are undergoing a similar process, because it's much more common now that you meet somebody and, you know, on the surface you may have first projections about them. Again, you're broadening your perceptions about everything, including people around you. You learn to be more open-minded, and they reveal some wacky thing that they've learned about on the internet recently or on YouTube, some big chunk of information, right? People are way more informed, you know, in a general sense, for better or worse, because the quality information we're not always sure of. Again, there's the illusory aspect of this period, but the what it means to be a human being and what it means to be you, I'm sure has changed greatly in the past 12 years. Okay, and just a note that I wrote at the beginning of the cycle to a client. I said, this is just, again, a general comment on Neptune and Pisces. This was when it was sort of coming up, right? Some days you will feel challenged and confused. Some days, conversely, you will feel that your dreams are finally being realized. All this depending on which side of the bed you woke up on. Speaking of bed, Pisces rules the 12th house, the beds, right? Sleep, dreams. So these issues of revitalizing ourselves through connecting with the unconscious by way of the nourishing effects of healthy sleep, rest, reflection, meditation are so very important during this period. Listening deeply is crucial at this time, for only by mining deep into one's unconscious can the true jewels be found and brought back into the world. On the flip side, one must be very cautious in the realm of drugs, alcohol, and other forms of escape. The lure of checking out will be ever present, and so will be the lure of the big dream. Okay? So on that note, I will end this series. Please share, like, and subscribe. And look out for the next videos I'm going to do looking forward to Neptune in Aries, which we're already seeing some signs of in the world, and what it's going to mean for you. What that epic, again, 12-year cycle is going to download into your experience, and how it's going to motivate and inspire you in new directions, for truly a new reality is coming our way.